Hello friends, welcome to Third Style Garage. Doug and Dale working on a 66 Volkswagen Beetle Convertible. This is episode, I think, 31 on the restoration of Hendrick. We are working on the hatch, the rear apron, the fenders, the bumper brace, and the bumper brackets, and getting them all fit together. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, please check those out. This week, we're going to tear this back apart and hopefully get things welded in, or at least spot weld and check it. We've got some fitment issues that are dogging us, so we're going to work on it. Here we go. All right, so here's the plan. All right, so the back of this bumper brace patch needs to match up. So the bottom of this will need to match up with the bottom of the original piece where we're patching it in. We've held the bumper where we think it's supposed to be, and it's 13 inches from here to the floor on both sides. And the two bolts that hold in this bumper bracket we think should be level. So between those 4 points, that should locate this patch piece for us. The left to right will be set by the apron. So now time to take it off completely, and we will clean this, trim them to fit, and hopefully this will end up in a place that works. We'll find out. Oh, you look good, Dale.
There you go.
There you go.
That way we match.
That we match. So I have to get... So we've been doing a lot of head scratching off camera and thinking and puzzling till our puzzler was sore. Whatever that is. Is it the Lorax?
Yes.
There you go.
Yep.
I think we're running into...
No, that's the Grinch.
The Grinch?
Sorry. Anyway, Dr. Seuss.
You're the Grinch. I think we're running into a couple challenges, and we need to kind of prioritize them as to which one do we solve first, which one's second, which one's third. And I'm afraid that if we solve them in the wrong order, it'll get worse as we go or something like that. And I think we're running into a couple things. Let me flip the camera around. We have a 66 rear apron. We have a 64 rear deck lid that was in better shape, and we liked the look and the handle and some of the features of better. So the rear deck lid is closing, and it is not down far enough. And so the edge of the deck lid is resting on this channel that the seal goes on, or the seal goes into, as opposed to resting over the edge on where the seal will be. So that's challenge number one. Dale's in the process of removing this channel because we're gonna replace it. We thought about just shifting it up, but there is a bump here. There is a ridge. So that's a problem that we haven't solved yet. Problem number two is when we bolt the bumper bracket through this slot, it is angled down. So the mounting holes for the bumper bracket, the mounting holes inside the bumper brace, there's two bolts in there, seems like this angle is not quite right. And, ouch. That led us to think that maybe this patch was in the wrong orientation. And so we worked on trying to manipulate that to get the bracket, the bumper bracket level, and at the same time to shift the whole thing up to get the deck lid to clear that seal, and none of it seemed right. It's like you got one of the three, but not two or three of the three. And so we need to figure out which domino to fall first. And here's where we're landing. We want to get this bumper brace in the right spot first, in the right spot so the apron sits flush we can get it adjusted correctly up and down. We're not going to worry about the bumper bracket orientation to the brace. So underneath, follow me underneath here. Bear with me. There's the light. Underneath, I've taken a silver Sharpie and traced out where I think this needs to be. And then I will trim that and eventually tack it in. I set that by centering the hole in my fender with the fender mount bolt there. And this one is centered. And when I look at it this way, it's a little bit recessed from the fender so that there's room for the apron to mount on it. And it kind of fits nicely at the bottom. So once we make this flush and tack weld it in, I think this will be in a spot where we want it to be. The second thing we'll then do is, at least our plan now, sorry, my flashlight turned off, is we will rework this brace with these two welded nuts if we have to get the bumper bracket perfectly lined through this slot. We need to cut this, twist it, angle it, re-weld it, so that the correct stock brace, or sorry, bumper bracket bolts right in here, and it doesn't need to be bent or twisted. The bumper sits straight. And I think that will be our second solution, but we're gonna do that after we get this piece in place. Then the third challenge will be that seal, and we're gonna tackle that one third after we have it in, and we may need to modify this apron slightly by removing some of this lip or shifting this up a little bit or something. We don't know yet, but we don't want to do that wrong in order to try to solve this. So have a couple mistakes over there just to get this to fit and have our fenders not line up this way. So that's our plan. So we've watched a lot of videos online, and it seems like every single one where people weld in these patches, they put the apron on, everything lines up perfect the first time. And a lot of times they don't show the bumper going on, they don't show the bumper brackets, they don't show how it just seems to go perfect every time. Maybe we're the only ones in the world where this didn't go perfect, and this has taken weeks. And in the very end, we will have a car that I'm convinced the gaps will look right, and we will know that weeks of work were worth it. That was a lot of W's. But I just want you to know, if you're watching, that if yours doesn't go perfect and you've got to fight things along the way and modify things, that you're not the only one. And we had to make some choices to take extra steps to get it right in our mind, or as close to right as we can. And we'll know that we didn't take a shortcut in the end, and we'll be able to sleep better at night. And Dale and I will be the only two guys driving on the road in a 66 Beetle with smiles on our faces. Well, we may be the only ones that care, and that's okay. So if you run into problems like this, don't give up. Keep scratching your head. We've been posting some questions on Facebook groups, getting some input from others who have gone through this before, and just keep being willing to try and work through it, and you'll get it figured out eventually. So I'm gonna dive back into it, start getting those patches set. Dale's gonna keep working on the apron, getting that rail off, and we'll make her happen. Dale's almost has the seal piece off. Dale, how'd you get this off?
Yeah, I'm actually really encouraged by this. It was pretty simple. Hard to see the spot welds, but we just kind of tapped in and pulled up a corner, and
with kind of a little gasket scraper chisel thing.
Yep.
Okay.
So this guy going, and then just a belt sander with, it's pretty aggressive belt, but I just made sure really slow and just kind of scraping along the edge so I wasn't hitting the apron itself. And then definitely watching for, you know, the thin metal glow.
As it gets blue and hot.
And so just kind of scrape away like that. Careful how you set it down. But yeah, then I was able to tap right on through it. So I really didn't do anything underneath it. And you know, our goal is, it seems that we've got a new piece like this. It's the same as what's in the hood, and we'll have to do the same thing in the hood, is remove this, where it's been kind of chewed up and whatnot. But I think this is not near as prominent as we thought. I think we have some room to adjust where this is. So we'll be able, I think, to weld in a new channel.
So put it where it was before.
So it was there, and that's too low for us.
Down a little bit.
So
sat down like that, and then we might need to move it back, maybe like that.
Yeah, you know, so I think we're really, and then we're gonna do that channel setting once we have the apron actually on the car and we know that we have the deck lid in the right spot. And this is the stuff that all kinds of people make it look good, but their shots are from the back. I wonder what their gaps are, and they never have a bumper on.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're test fit. We're trying to test fit everything to see how it's all going to go together. And we're fixing problems before we really have them.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this when it's painted.
Yeah. And maybe other people's do work the first time because they've done 40 of them before and they know what they're doing. But most people don't have that situation.
Yeah, I still feel like the 66 deck lid, the curve of that is the same as the 64. It's just the handle stuff that's different.
Yeah.
But maybe that's part of it. Who knows?
All right, we'll keep going. Good work. Problem number next. When I center these two bolt holes, the tapped bolt holes on the fender, with the fender in the place we want it to be, so I center it there and I center it here, this new patch sticks out too far. In fact, it's pretty much flush with the outside fender. The problem is I need to put the apron on here yet, so that patch needs to stop short, like the tip of my really dirty finger, so there's room for the apron to sit on top of it. So, you know, that's what you get with aftermarket parts. I think this dimension from the center line of the bolt to the outside is just a little too large all the way down this edge. So I'm gonna take my favorite hammer and I'm gonna try to roll this down and basically move this flange that direction by curling it, pounding it, and rolling it down and pounding it flat, maybe with a dolly on the other side to flatten it out later. So, you know, you just got to make it work. So here we go. Hello friends, it's the third stall night. Dale and I are back. Hi Dale.
Hello.
And we're getting closer to, I thought I was putting this panel in for the last time, but we're not quite there yet. I like this gap here because my apron will ride over top of this. But as I approach down here, starting right about here, my gap goes away. And here, this is now dangerously close to flush between the two, which means when I put my apron on here, it's gonna be proud. So I think it needs to come back off again. Other than that, I've got my surfaces all cleaned up and ready to weld in. The other piece I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bend this up because I've got a gap here that's missing. I could push this whole thing higher. But the problem is then my welded nuts here don't line up with the fender holes. And so I'm using the fender holes to kind of locate where this goes. So I will probably bend this piece up, attach it, and then bend it over and weld it in. So I'm gonna go on the bench and do these adjustments now, and then hopefully start tacking it in. All right, she's in for the last time. Cleaned off the metal edges so that I should have a good surface for welding. And then you can see I twisted this edge up. So what I plan to do is to weld up to the top here and then fold it over so it'll crease right where my fingernail is. The other thing I did is, you can see there's a long slit all the way down the back. So this flange, I cut it with a cut-off disc and then basically let the cut collapse on itself and put in 2 tack welds. That gives us a nice recess so that our apron can fit in. So I think we are in a spot. I'm gonna start welding here and tack weld it along the edge. Not completely welded in yet, so that if we need to cut it back out, we can. And then I will move on to the passenger side. Time to get welding. Driver?
Driver.
I can never get it straight when I'm sitting here. I can figure it out when I'm in the car. Hi. So here's where we are. The driver's side, we're ready to start tack welding it in. I want to remind you, this is the side, the back corner of the car that we believe got hit. And so we've had to do a lot of modifications to this panel to get it to fit, even modifications to this part of the body. So originally, this outer flange was too proud and the apron would not have fit on. So I cut a long slit all the way down here, all the way out the bottom, which is blocked a little bit by this clamp, sorry. But basically a long slit there, which allowed this edge to swing down in, and then I tack welded it. And that got this nut centered up with the hole in the fender, which is good. And we like where the fender's sitting, so we're modifying this to fit the fender. That left this hole too far forward, and it was not lining up with the center line of the hole in the fender as well. So we made another cut down here, knowing that this was now tack welded. So now this whole thing springs, and we can get this nut centered on the hole, but also gives us a low enough flange here so that the apron has enough relief to sit flush with the fender. Left us with a problem that this part of the body was still too proud, and it was actually sticking up slightly higher than the fender was, and the apron then never would have sat on correctly. And we think that that's because this part of the body was pushed in the accident, and they fixed it, and it was low up high and proud down here. So it was just angle-wise was off. So you can kind of see there's a slice from here all the way down to here that's allowed us to drop this piece in and get these 2 edges to line up. So I think we're finally to the point where we can tack weld this guy in. And that's probably gonna be the end of our night tonight. 3 hours, goes like that when you're having fun. So we're gonna tack weld this in, and then next week we'll probably fit the apron in. Don't know if that'll be the end of this episode or not. The videos are getting a little long, but that's because this takes us a long time. And you know, we could have slapped it together and we would have had a crooked bumper, and the fender welting would have covered a lot of it, but it wouldn't have been right. So I feel good about the extra time we're putting into it. If you've got a question, comment, feel free to post it below. If you haven't, I love it if you'd subscribe. Have a great day.